Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to Spontaneous Remarks, the podcast where you never know what's going to be said or done. You just got to know what we're going to be talking about today. On today's episode, let's spin the old wheel of Nerdville and find out what the subject's going to be about today. Here we go. Oh, here we go. All right, well, when there's something strange in your neighborhood, who you going to call? Ghostbusters! Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, guys. Ghostbusters, the movies, the franchise, the toys. Let's hit it on this episode of Spontaneous Remarks. Who you going to call? Ghostbusters! Woo! Welcome back, guys. Back to another episode of Spontaneous Remarks. This one, we're going to be talking about Ghostbusters. Who you going to call? Well, we're not going to call anybody tonight because as I record this, it's almost 11 o'clock. So no calls tonight, but we are going to be talking about Ghostbusters. Now, this is probably one of my favorite movies and one of the movies that I can probably recite the most of the lines while watching it. It's always a fun time just to start saying the lines when you know what's coming up. And so Ghostbusters, I mean, it was such a fun movie growing up. I mean, it was released in 1984. This movie is such a beloved, supernatural comedy franchise that originated with the release of the first film in 1984. Here's the comprehensive overview, just what we're talking about, the movies, the toys, and, the release dates and all those things, even the key actors associated with the Ghostbusters franchise. Now, it was directed by Ivan Reitman, and it starred Bill Murray as Dr. Peter Venkman. He was the skeptic of the bunch. Dan Aykroyd, Dr. Raymond Stantz. He was kind of the inventor. He came up with a lot of the gadgets and things, and as well as Harold Ramis, which is Dr. Egon Spangler. Those were the two brainy ones of the bunch. Ernie Hudson was Winston Zeddemore, and Sigourney Weaver was Dana Barrett. She was one of the people that had a ghost infestation in her apartment. I believe Dan Aykroyd, Dr. Raymond Stantz called Spook Central. She lived in the corner penthouse of Spook Central. And then Rick Moranis, what a wonderful part he played as Louis Tully, which was their lawyer / nerd friend / Ghostbuster wannabe. And so what happened in this movie, if you hadn't seen it, go watch it after the podcast, though. The three eccentric parapsychologists start a ghost-catching business in New York City and become the city's primary defense against paranormal disturbances. June 8, 1984 was when it was released, and then it was followed up by Ghostbusters 2 in 1989, also directed by Ivan Reitman, with the same cast from the first film. But this plot, there was a new supernatural threat emerging in New York City, a ghost inside of a painting in the museum that Dana Barrett worked at. And it was released on June 16, 1989. Pretty neat that they released them in the same month. Now, even though our podcast is all about, pop culture from the 80s, my childhood growing up, we had a sequel in 2021 called Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now, we ain't going to talk about them, the movies that don't make any sense, since it played with the idea of the Ghostbusters in a different, alternate reality. We're not going to talk about them. Anyway, this one was directed by Jason Reitman, which is the son of Ivan Reitman. And it starred Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace, Carrie Coon, and Paul Rudd, as well as At the end, it was the original Ghostbusters were in there as well. Now, this sequel sets decades after the original films, and it focused on a family moving to a town out in the country where they discover their connection to the original Ghostbusters. If you hadn't seen that one, I'm not going to spoil anything. Just go watch it. It was released November 19th in 2021. Now, back growing up, I'll tell you what, I had one of the best childhoods I think I could have had. My sister spoilt the poo out of me. At Christmas time, I always got some of the coolest gifts, and I remember, Santa came and brought me just so many Ghostbuster toys. The merchandise and toys of the 80s, with the success of the Ghostbusters movie, it led to a wide range of merchandise and toys in the 80s. They had action figures, they had vehicles, play sets, and just so much stuff. Some of the notable Ghostbusters toys from that era include the real Ghostbusters action figures, and they were based on the animated series, and these are the ones I had, the real Ghostbusters, which was inspired by the original film. I never had the Proton Pack and Ghost Trap, I don't think. That was like the emulated toy equipment that you could actually put on your back or like throw across the floor. I never had those. I did have the Ecto-1 toy vehicle. No, actually, I think I did have a Proton Pack, now that I think of it, because it had those, the foam darts that you could shoot out of it. The Ecto-1 toy vehicle was just a scaled-down version of the Ghostbusters vehicle, complete with the sirens and ghost-catching gear. That was when they made toys good. I could run that thing across the floor, down some steps, and it would crash and roll around, and it would just not tear up. It was made so well. Nowadays, you get these toys, they're made cheap, and they cost so much to make. Or no, they cost so much to buy. They probably don't cost much to make because they fall apart. You drop them one time, they shatter. And then I also had the Ghostbusters Firehouse Headquarters playset, which was a detailed replica of the Ghostbusters headquarters, and it even featured, various interactive elements. The doors would open, you could drive the Ecto-1 in. It had a fire pole, the pole that you slide down. It had that with a little thing that you could put your character on it, and they would spin down the pole like they're sliding down it. It was pretty cool. I had 3 or 4 different levels that you could go up. The actors and characters now, like I said, Bill Murray played Dr. Peter Venkman. Man, he was just, the witty and charming leader of the Ghostbusters. Dan Aykroyd, he was the paranormal and one of the co-founders of the Ghostbusters, and he was enthusiastic about catching ghosts. Harold Ramis was the brains behind the gadgets. Oh, I said that wrong a while ago. I thought Ray was. Sorry, it was Egon. He always come up with the gadgets and things. And then Ernie Hudson, he was the pragmatic, down-to-earth new member of the Ghostbusters, even though he was a perfect fit in with them. Dana Barrett was Peter's love interest and victim of supernatural occurrences. And then Louis Tully was Dana's neighbor that was also a key character in the Ghostbusters adventures. Now, with the cultural impact, the Ghostbusters franchise became a cultural phenomenon, which spawned cartoons, comic books, video games, and just a dedicated fan base that continues to celebrate the series' legacy. The Ghostbusters theme song was composed by Ray Parker Jr., and even though it became an iconic anthem of the 80s, later on, it was, come to find out, it was actually, I guess, copyright infringed upon Huey Lewis and the News's I Want a New Drug, because it had the little riff in the background. So the Ghostbusters went dum 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 doo 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 doo, right? I Want a New Drug went round dum 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 bum 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 dum 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 dum. I want a new drug. Doom 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 doom. It had the same little riff, so I think they sued Ray Parker Jr. Which is funny because to me, I'm a musician, and all the music in my head, after hearing decades and decades of songs, and it's so easy to try to create something that's original, but it's something that you've heard that's just stuck in the back of your mind that you kind of enjoy or you like. and then it kind of comes out subconsciously. It's happened in the past with George Harrison of the Beatles. He had written a song called My Sweet Lord, but it was I guess you could call it a parody of He's So Fine. Sound is exactly the same almost. Every bit of the song was exactly the same. Anyway, let's get on to this. Overall, the Ghostbusters remain a classic and enduring franchise that has left an indelible mark on popular culture, blending the comedy, supernatural elements, and memorable characters into this timeless cinematic experience. So thank you, Ivan Reitman and the cast of the Ghostbusters, for making such a great movie. And, you know, it's so fun because I've heard interviews with Dan Aykroyd, and he's the one that come up with all of the terminology, the ectoplasm and the full free-roaming vapor, class 5, whatever they called it. He come up with all the paranormal verbiage in the movie. So that was all kind of interesting, kind of like J.R.R. Tolkien when he come up with all the elf language and things like that. So what else can we talk about with the Ghostbusters? Well, Ghostbusters 1, the very first movie, had so many great parts in it. I mean, it was also the introduction of the movie. Not very many movies start without having the credits roll at the beginning. Ghostbusters did not have any credits at the beginning. That was an interesting thing. A lot of the special effects in the movie were practical special effects. They used puppets and things instead of of course, we didn't have computer-generated graphics back then. They had to do it practically, which looks a lot better in my opinion. Just like in Star Wars and things like that, where they built their sets and built their all their different things. So with Ghostbusters, they had a couple of NES games that weren't that great, but they did have a couple of games. Still carried on with the idea of ghost catching, ghost busting, things like that. All the toys that I had, I mean, they had so many toys. So in the first wave of toys that they had these were from the real Ghostbusters cartoon. You had Egon, which in the cartoon, they I don't know why, how they come up with the different looks for the Ghostbusters, but Egon was in a kind of a mint green Ghostbuster suit. He had blonde hair, red glasses. He came with a yellow ghost with the proton pack that you could put on his back, and the handle could spin around, and the little the proton beam or whatever they called it would spin around as well, so it looked like you're actually trying to catch the ghost. Peter Venkman was in a brown Ghostbusters jumpsuit. He had a blue little ghost with the proton pack as well. Egon's proton pack stream was orange. Peter's was green. With Ray, he had a light gray Ghostbuster suit with a purple ghost, and his stream was orange as well, or like a yellow. It was like a orange, yellow orange kind of. And then Winston's suit was almost the same as Egon's, only it was just a different shade of green. It was a lighter green, I guess. He had an orange ghost, and his proton stream was green. It looked like a lime green or whatever. And then there was Slimer. Slimer came with some food, a pizza, a watermelon, and then like a hunk of meat. And then Mr. Stay Puft. Now, I still have Mr. Stay Puft here around in our house somewhere. The little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Even though he was very small, he was the same size as the Ghostbusters. He was not a huge Stay Puft. They had the Ghost Zapper, which was like the proton pack. And then they had a plush green Slimer and a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That was the first wave of toys. Going back, that was in 1986. 1987 toys. Let's see what we had here. We had, I remember this guy. We had the skeleton dude. He had these little handles on his back. He was a skeleton ghost, so you could squeeze the back of his his back, and his ribs would open up, and he would catch one of the Ghostbusters in his ribs, and his eyeballs would pop out. And then there was the bug-eyed ghost. He was the you could squeeze him, and his eyeball was supposed to pop out, and it didn't work all that great. But he was pretty neat. And then there was the what's this one? H2O ghost or H2 ghost. He was like it was two different ghosts in one. The head would come off, and he had another head under the top head. Oh, and this is when, hey, okay, so all you kids from now used to, they had these slime videos a while back where you could make your own slime. I believe Ghostbusters, the toys, were the first toys. I could be wrong about this. I don't know, but this first ones I remember that come out with the ectoplasm, the slime toy. It might have been He-Man. I think He-Man had slime too. But yeah, ectoplasm, the toy, it come in a little tub and it was pink. He-Man slime was green. It was probably He-Man. I think He-Man came out first. And then there was the Ghost Popper, which was what I had. It was the proton stream that you could shoot out the little foam pieces that you could, like a Nerf gun, but it was Ghostbusters. And then there was the Banshee Bomber. I had this one. It was like a kind of like a devil looking ghost, and it would spit the slime out of his mouth. Oh, I don't think I had Sludge Bucket. This was another ghost that you could put the slime in its mouth. I did have that one. I had the Squisher, and it come out of their nose and the mouth. That was pretty gross. I had that one. And then here's the Ecto 1. I'm looking through the collectible website of all the toys. This is the Ecto 1 toy car. My gosh, like these. I had all this stuff growing up, man. And these are the toys that now people are looking for to, you could buy these on eBay for a lot of money. Okay, so now this is the 1988 figures, and they redid the Ghostbusters. These were called Fright Features, and these were pretty cool. So they all had different suits on in this one. So Egon on this one, he was in a white and red suit with green gloves. He had a green necktie, and he had some kind of gadget with him. And then a ghost. It said sore throat ghost, and then a ghost zapper accessory. But his arm, if you push his arm down, his neck would come up and his mouth would come open and his eyes would bug out. No. His mouth would come open. Peter Venkman, his eyes and his hair would come up like they got scared. He had a gruesome twosome ghost and then a ghost zapper as well accessory. And he was in a kind of a grayish jumpsuit with a yellow vest on. And then Ray's was his ears would pop out and his eyes would get real big when you push his arm in. He had the gel jaw ghost, whatever that is, and ghost zapper. And then Winston, his mouth would drop way open and his head would spin around when you pushed his arm down. The Scream Roller Ghost is who he had with the ghost zapper as well. And then there was also, I did never have this one. Don't look like I don't remember Mini Goopers, the Mini Shooter, the Mini Traps. I don't remember those three ghosts. And then they had different color of ectoplasm. I think I only had the purple. Well, it looks pink, but it says purple on here. They had blue, purple, red, and yellow. And then there was another proton pack that they sold, but I never had that. And then I got the Firehouse headquarters for Ghostbusters. It come with the trap. It was 3 stories. Man, it was cool. It was a cool toy to have. I had that for a long time. And then also here they had some haunted humans. This is Granny Gross Ghost, and she would it looked like a little granny with a little hat on, but then I don't remember I think you pushed down on it and her hat would come up. She had a third eye in the middle of her forehead, and her mouth would open really big like she's going to eat you. They had the hard hat horror ghost. I didn't have this one, but he looked like he turned into some kind of bat when you did whatever to him. The male fraud ghost. Now this was a little mailman, and his pockets on his shirt. When you push down on him, his belly would open up to be the mouth, and his pockets would turn into eyes, and his head would shrink down. So that was all. Those were pretty cool. I never had the terror trash ghost. This was a guy carrying a trash can. He turned into some kind of alien, it looked like. And then I had the tombstone tackle ghost. Now this guy was a football player, and if you bent him over into like tackle mode, where like if your football players are on the scrimmage line, and they're down ready to whatever hut hike. I'm not a football fan, so I don't know what you call it. But anyway, when they're bent over, ready to attack the opposing team, he would his backside would open up. There was eyes that popped up on his back, and his well, for lack of a better term, his butt up his back would open up to be the mouth. So like he's bent over, but his back would open up as the mouth. And then I had the ex-cop ghost, and which was just a cop, but his face would fall forward, and it would reveal the skeleton underneath. It was pretty creepy. I like that one. And then Janine Melnitz, she was also she was the fright feature where her eyes would bug out and her hair would fly up when she got scared. She had a couple of ghost zapper deals with her. I never had the brain blaster ghost. I never had the green ghost, Gooper ghost. That was another, I guess it was Slimer, but he could do the slime out of his mouth. Oh, I did have the pull speed ahead ghost, and this was a little ghost. Back in the 80s, they had these deals where you could put this, I don't even know what you call it. Let's see, a pull cord. You stick the pull cord through part of the ghost's head, and when you pull it out, it would make the wheels run in it, and you could set it down, it'd go across the floor really fast. There was a highway haunter, which was a slug bug ghost, or looks like a praying mantis underneath. And then I think I did have the Ecto too. It was a helicopter where you could fly around with the Ghostbusters. And then what else did I have? Let's see. This was in 1988. Did I have anything in 1989? Let's see. No, I didn't ever have the Dracula. I didn't have the monsters. I had Dracula. I think I did have. I had the Mummy. I didn't have Frankenstein or Dracula. I don't remember having Quasimodo. I don't remember having Wolfman or the Zombie. And then they had some more Screaming Heroes. I didn't ever have these. Egon, Janine, and Peter. Same of the fright faces. These were just another wave of them. They had all of them. Ray and Winston. They had all their accessories. I never had them. I didn't ever have the ghost spooker. That was something that you could talk into. Let's see, haunted vehicles. I never had the air sickness helicopter or the wicked wheelie. I never had that. Oh, I did have the fearsome flush. This was a toilet that had I think you rolled it across the floor and the toilet lid would try to eat you. Here's another Slimer with a proton pack. I don't believe I had that one. Never had the Ecto goggles or Ecto popper. Never had the finger pop fiends. There's another neutrona blaster and a water zapper. Never had them. And then here's some more Egon Super Fright features. This is another Egon, Janine, and Peter. Ray and Winston. Now, I did have Winston. I remember him. He had a green, like a space suit. But I never had the other three, I don't believe. I don't remember them. No, I don't remember them. And then they had the Ghost Trap. They had an Ecto 3, which is another vehicle. Well, I would love to have been on the team that was making these toys. That would have been cool. Reminds me of that movie Big when he was on the team making all the toys. That's cool. And then in 1990, we had another wave of the real Ghostbusters. This one had Louis Tully in it. I never had these. I never had. No, none of these look familiar to me at all. Goblins, Nasty Neck, Terrible Teeth, and Terror Tongue. Never had them. And then here's an Ecto 500 and a Ghost Sweeper. Never had those. Those are two vehicles. And then here's another wave of action figures. These are the slimed heroes. Apparently they get slimed somehow. Looks like their suits turned into, maybe they got wet or something. Yeah, you ghost them up with ice water. So when ice water hits them, it looks like they got slimed. Those were cool toys because the color changing toys, those were pretty neat. And then there's some more handheld toys that you could get. Another Ecto 1A. This was a different Ecto car. Oh, I love reliving my childhood and just remembering all the toys I had. I wish I still had them. That was in 1990. The final year was 1991 with another. These were the glow heroes. These glowed in the dark. Never even saw these. Man, I never saw these at all. I've never seen them before in my life. That's pretty cool. And then you had some more Ecto headphones and the Ghost Nabber and an Ecto Bomber, Glow Copper. I can't even talk. Glow Copter, Firefighter, and Backpack Heroes. Never had them. But hey, just remembering all the stuff from the 1980s and 90s. That's just so fun. That's just such a fun time in my life, and just growing up. And I hope the all of my this is the whole reason for doing the podcast is just this nostalgia, looking back, remembering, just something fun to do, guys. I hope you guys really enjoy the show. I hope you like the content. If you do, be sure to follow, give me a 5-star rating. I look forward to sharing more with you in the future, but really tonight, that's all it is. We just talked about Ghostbusters, the movies. Go watch them. There's another movie coming out this year, and I've got to see. I have not seen it yet, but I'm planning on it. It's called something. It's got something to do with ice. I don't remember. But anyway, well, I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Spontaneous Remarks. Your host, Mark Lawson, signing off. We'll catch you on the flip-flop. But until then, I ain't afraid of no ghost.